right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Thursday morning, Thursday evening, or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Hopefully, everybody can hear me. Getting ready for another opening bell. Should be an interesting one. We've got some pretty interesting kind of futures movement before the markets. A little bit up, a little bit of down, a little bit all around. Obviously, just saw the ECB come out as well with their monetary policy decisions. So we'll be talking about that a little bit, as it is important to, of course, the markets, especially Forex traders out there, seeing really it looks like everything's pretty much just going to stay the same. And that just means that even though the euro is quite high, so that just means we might see some continued strength in the euro, at least instantaneously. And we'll see what happens after that. A few good technicals were leading up to this event as well. So very, very interesting to always read the monetary policy decisions. I'll copy this into the room for everyone. So let me see if I can just do that. Here we go. There we go. Bit of information there. If you don't read these kind of decisions, fair enough. They're a bit boring. But I do encourage you to especially read the monetary policy decisions from your country. So whatever your country's in, let's say it's Australia over here, I do always read the RBA minutes. Worthwhile doing that. Just a quick couple of shout outs here. Hello, Doctor. Hello, Pumba. Hello, Shane. How are you going? Maquel, Speedar, Dutch. Good to see you in here again. Umesh, Kim, Jemin, Jihang, Marlene, Siddharth, AV, and I am going to mispronounce this one, Titan. Not sure how you say your name, but welcome everybody. Good to have you here. So we'll go probably down to a little bit lower time frames, I guess, on the stock markets today. So we've obviously got left-hand side here, US 500, right-hand side, Nasdaq. Pretty much they both came off that 50 EMA, which we did expect. We saw some bullish momentum coming off those levels. It's the first dip point. We spoke about this. It's pretty much that one point that you know that there's going to be some kind of buying support. Certainly was in this case. And now we're moving a little bit higher. Obviously, though, I think this is the problem zone. We're getting into the problem zone. We'll talk about that in the smaller time frames. Hello, everybody. Looks like lots of people are saying, hey, yeah, we're doing well. I got it perfect, did I? Excellent. No, I never can be sure with some of these names. So really, I think the market right now, obviously there's huge amounts of bullish sentiment in the market. But when we go down to the smaller time frames and you go down to swing, you're always looking at previous structure and then you're looking at how the market's been reacting with that structure. And that becomes one of the most important things that you want to do. So here we've got a few key points, I think, in the market recently on the 4 hour that we can watch. So we've obviously got on the way down, we've created structure around this 34 kind of 55 zone, a bunch of bullish wicks. We had body closes here. Now notice I always draw it to the body close. Why do I do this? Well, pretty much wherever the body closes is generally the most important point. It's effectively where the war between the buyers and the sellers has come out. You've got the buyers and the sellers fighting it out every single candle effectively, every time frame, and whoever wins, that's the bit that's locked in time. And especially when you see the war constantly ending at the same point, it becomes a more important point in the market. So what we saw in the sell-off is, of course, the 20 was the touch point. Now, we had the first 20. Let me just quickly reload my Epic Pen. 1 second. Get that ready for everyone here. And we had the 20 touch almost, and then we had the 20 touch, and then we just reached that recently. So we've actually got its own kind of trend within a trend, and we could potentially go into different time frames to see the best EMA or best moving average that we want to see touched. But in this case, we have had previous support become resistance, and then we had previous market structure support at 3,400 flat. Makes sense. That's where the previous market, of course, high was 398 kind of area. And then that's become a little bit of resistance. Now, if today we see it break through and crack this zone, then on the smaller time frames, where do we expect it to go next? I think many people will know, and that is most likely up to the previous area, this 3450. Remember, the stock market likes to move in psychological numbers because, especially of the nature of the amount of retail traders in the market. We've talked about this a bit on the channel, about 20% of the actual market volume right now is made up of retail traders like you, like me, like everybody else, it actually matters. The psychology of the market matters. So when you're taking profits, you want to take profits slightly before the psychological numbers. And of course, when you're setting stop losses, you need to be very well aware that the stop hunts are going to be within 5 to 10 points, maybe 20 points of those zones. That's what I think is very, very important to understand. Who's trading these markets, especially the top 5 to 10 stocks. Nvidia, Tesla, Nikola, all of those high volume. Apple, high volume. Any high volume stock right now, the psychology of the market matters more than ever before. Election is always an unstable market. Traditionally, it's just been generally pretty bullish into the market. So we actually see, if you pull stats up online and you have a look at what happens into the US election, usually October, November are actually slightly negative months. Not hugely negative, slightly negative. September is actually usually positive in an election year, but obviously we've seen that stat that we've been going through time and time and time again, that the market is usually negative in September during any year that isn't an election year. It's the most correlated since 1928 with negativity. Now, I'll just quickly check on my phone here. I had a comment before that I wanted to bring up, and I said I would. Let me just see if I can load that in my my phone, because it's an interesting stat. I think everyone will like this one. Okay, here we go. This is from Antonio. So this, I do read your comments, everybody. I especially read them in the videos. So here it is. Great video again. He says, compliments from Portugal. Just a creepy fact. Markets topped 3rd September 1929. Isn't that interesting? We topped out a market 3rd of September 1929. Obviously, we topped out at the beginning of September this month. September has often been the beginner of bad times. Now, I don't think it is in this case. We've talked about how we really look at copper to show us a bit of an idea of whether the market's truly scared. We've obviously had the euphoria and the tech stocks, all of those types of things. But yeah, interesting fact, and I think that's a good one. No, we haven't done too many stocks yet. We were just talking about some general facts, and we'll break into everything. We'll go through all the top 5. We'll go through the Apple, the Tesla, everything, gold, silver. We'll go through that in this stream, so definitely stay tuned for all of that. Now, we've got some news out tonight. If we have a look at our economic calendars, now this is, of course, set to my time frame. So this is forexfactory.com. This is just one of many out there. You can see the Euro news and how that came out only just a little while away, a little while ago, 9:45 in terms of in Australia. 10:30, we have the ECB press conference. Right now, 10:09, so 21 minutes away, and we'll have that. And then, of course, at the same time, we've got the unemployment claims for the US. Now, these haven't been as, I guess, explosive as they were a few months ago, but they're still an important factor. And we still want to be seeing, of course, a decline in these unemployment claims. And you can see here, when you load up a chart like this, how right they've been. So they've been relatively correct recently with what's going on. I still think this is pretty alarming how high this is, especially when you consider some of the other things going on with unemployment in the US and non-farm payrolls and the actual real figure versus the revised figure and all those things. But at this time, we still have the Fed underpinning the market. And of course, tech stocks. Really shows here, we've got the Nasdaq bouncing fairly aggressively pre-market. Now, what have we seen the last 2 days? The last 2 days in the market, we have seen selling into the close both times. Now, we had buying, of course, pre-market, and then we had selling into the close. That's important because if we have a little bit of selling into the close or after the close, that shows that it's not as strong as necessarily we think. Yeah, we'll be looking at the VIX. We'll be looking at all of it. Just a quick market overview in terms of some of my opinions at the moment. Absolutely. Bring those questions through, though. Please keep asking as much as possible. It keeps the streams fun, keeps them great. And I do appreciate everyone that's here today. Gemin says, jobless report in 25 minutes. S&P 500 futures near even potentially waiting on the report. Yeah, I think so. I think that could be certainly sure. We got 33 kind of 94 handle here, obviously 0.06, but now we're positive on the Nasdaq. Let's jump into the 4-hour Nasdaq here and see if it's been trading very similarly. So we're holding that 20 it expects that the market will come back up and touch a 20. Now we've got 20 and a 200. It's like almost coiling between those two moving averages. Let's zoom that in a little bit here on the Nasdaq. So we're right at that role reversal zone. We've found weakness. Obviously a bust up here. It signals go straight back into these levels here. Previous support was resistance and a 50. So a bust up here, we should really fill the gap, especially considering how many wicks we've had. So we want to close above for bulls. And if we start to see sell off and of course under here, I think automatically we're starting to talk about getting back down to the 11,000. So quite a lot of interesting day. I think it's a pretty pivotal day to see what's going to be happening. And I don't actually know, well, you never know 100%, but when we look at the calendar, could a lot of this shorting continue on? If we scroll through this, let's have a look here. Next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then of course for Thursday in Australia, it'll be different of course in the US, we have here FOMC statement, federal funds rate, and the press conference. So whether I can be bothered getting up that early in the morning, I'm not sure. But if I can, I might even stream this one. So definitely stay tuned for that if we do it. But here we've got the FOMC press conference. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if the market wants to have a bit of a sell-off ahead of this event to say, hey, Fed, we want support. We want further stimulus. Give us what we want. Let's see what happens there. Do the big traders study the EMAs? They certainly do use moving averages, yes. They certainly do. All right, so we've got a whole bunch of questions coming in here. Can we go through the VIX? Absolutely. I know a lot of you trade VIX. I know a lot of people trade VIX out there. Very interesting that VIX is so heavily traded. So let's load that one up and talk about that first. Are we at a crossroads? Yes. Yeah, short selling is legal. Need a margin account with your broker. Yeah, I mean, short selling is certainly not legal in all countries, it seems, but it is illegal, of course, in most Western countries. Some places they ban it outright. So obviously the VIX, we'll just go through kind of the thing that happened last time. We've talked about this a few times. Big jump up, new high, obviously big sell-off. Big jump up, new high, didn't quite get the equal, big sell-off. Now, the VIX is obviously based on options in terms of the options volatility premium, etc. We are seeing a decline. Now, VIX doesn't necessarily trade incredibly technically. It's just more that it likes to hover around certain zones. And when it's over 20, it's traditionally seen as, of course, the volatile where anything can happen in terms of big spikes, flash crashes, all those types of things. We still have increased volatility in the air. And when it gets under 20, you're in a normal kind of bullish market in general terms. If you look at a monthly, we've talked about this quite a few times. Now, if we are doing technicals on this and we're saying, well, what's going on? We probably have to go back down to the smaller time frames and have a look at what the structure is doing. Is there any previous kind of resistance or support here on this particular one? And I guess you could say at around this 28, you've had previous resistance twice, you've had a bit of support over here, and then just under that at the 26, you've got some previous kind of structure coil before it spat out. So this is the point where for anyone that wants to see VIX spike up, you want to see it in this range. So you want to have it basically right now. We want it from the 28 to this zone here. Somewhere in this zone, we should be seeing the VIX spike up. We do not want it anywhere lower than that because when it's gone lower than that, historically, it hasn't necessarily spiked up very quickly. It's basically stayed in that consolidation range. We only got through once before that point. Notice over here, we had that flash crash, but generally speaking, we want it to hold above this zone for VIX traders. So we've got some other questions coming in here. We'll go back a little bit through some of this stuff. I think that is relatively worthwhile looking at though. Makes sense that the VIX will subside when we don't have big ranges. If you load up pivots, if you just think about what the market's doing, of course, we're not having as big a range as we had a few days ago. So they're very fast to react, and that's why the VIX moves like this. Here's a question from Kevin. I'm going to answer this straight away. Kevin, Tom, good morning. Do you ever look at put-call ratio to gauge market sentiment? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, put-call ratio is certainly worthwhile checking out. And I do think that it is certainly worthwhile checking out almost on a daily occurrence. Put call ratio itself, though, won't necessarily give you that much. One thing I'll say, counterintuitive to what you might think. If you have put call ratio that is puts are actually getting bought more, is in there's more puts, you actually want to be buying the market, because usually the market will not crash when everyone thinks the market is going to crash. That's just the way it is. People would be profiting off that area. So when put call ratios are historically low, that's actually more of a sign of course, a market crash. So whenever puts are going up and you see way more puts in the market, generally speaking, it's a very bullish sign. Now let's think about the last 2 to 3 years in the American market. What happened? Puts actually increased most of the time there. So we had a put increase because people were getting scared of the market. What did the market do? It did little pullbacks and huge runs. So just as a thing in the future, whenever you see put call ratio and you see an increase in puts, don't think, oh, that means what a great time for us to be in that. It's usually the counter to that. And we might even have a bit of a kind of example of that, I think, in tonight's stream. VIX seems to hold to its 10 daily MA, says You So Dumb. Well, I should have probably said your name there. I got a bit trolled, but good one. Yep. So Euro here, I just got this quick thing I wanted to say, which is inverse head and shoulders on the Euro New Zealand on the right-hand side here. You can see all of this happened before, of course, the ECB announcement, the pullback to the neckline. This is a sideways one. We've obviously got left shoulder over here, right shoulder, head, and movement. Now, if you take the range, whenever you're looking at a pattern, whether this is a stock or whether this is a currency, or it doesn't really matter, the technicals will always be the same here. When you're looking at inverse head and shoulders or head and shoulders in general, we move this, we take the distance. Now, 2 things I want to bring up here. One, when you're taking the distance, if the distance goes into previous structure, like a previous resistance or previous support or a key level, would we be taking our profit at 179.20? Would we be taking our profit up here? Or would we potentially take our profit before the 179? Probably makes sense. If we had more structure off in this zone here, it would be even better, because what that's saying to us is it's saying the market has really done a very good synergy between the pattern and, of course, the expected take profit. And you often do see those kind of moving together. The other thing that I always say about these, of course, you want to have your stop losses behind the right shoulder. And does that mean down here? I think it's fair to put it below this point. Don't do it by just a few pips or a few cents. Always do it by a percentage of that section. That's also a bit of a rookie mistake that a lot of people make. And if it moves up over, like too much over half of what your expectation is, you don't want to be taking that trade. Ever. Because it's already gone the distance. It's already done too much. All right, so heaps of questions. We need to answer a few of these. Series of lower lows and lower highs on the market. Is that still bearish? Yep, it is, until we obviously bust through these previous highs. We need to see what we call the lightning bolt. Now, the lightning bolt is basically a move up, followed by a move down, followed by another move up and a new high. Why do we see that? Well, generally in healthy market dynamics, we have a trough, we have a peak, we have a higher trough, and we have, of course, a higher peak when it gets past here. That shows us that the market is truly moving. It's not just like a knee-jerk reaction flash, kind of dead cat bounce or something like that. We don't want that necessarily. All right, whole bunch of new questions. Go through this. VIX to 22, a few people say. Well, we'll see about that one. Gareth says, please do the 4 a.m. stream. We'll see about that one. We'll see if we can do the 4 a.m. stream. 20 EMA and 50 EMA and 200 SMA. Yes, thank you, Graham. Thank you for sending that out. Central banks, Joseph says, central banks could outlaw short selling and get more control of the market. Could it happen? It definitely has happened in several economies. Absolutely, it can happen. How much average hours of sleep do I get during the week? Quite a lot. Quite a lot. 8, probably. I don't necessarily, especially during this current crisis and we're in lockdown in Melbourne, you don't have to be up as early. So, yeah, it's not too bad. I don't actually trade the whole US session. There's no need for me to do that. I just basically look for very key swing trades. I'm not really a huge amount of scalping day trading the US session. You can do it, but maybe I'll do that in Forex instead. It's just the time frame we live in in Australia. You can't do it. Netflix is a good buy. I think Netflix has a lot of headwinds in it. So absolutely. US numbers soon? Yes, we do. So we'll go through some other TA now, and let's just have a quick look at the futures. So one of the things I always say that users and people should always try to do is have a look at a quick futures to get an idea of what's going on in the market. So we actually had a little bit of a spike up in VIX in terms of what happened over the last kind of futures trade, Asia into Europe. We've obviously had a little bit of a decline in the S&P, flat kind of day on the markets. Now the ASX 200, the market I'm in Australia, was actually a declining market today. So it actually preempted a technically negative move in the US. Then we've got the Nasdaq finding good futures support. Futures mean nothing, in my opinion, so we'll have to see whether that comes through. And of course, crude oil continues its slight decline here. Now, I was reading a few articles. I tend to agree with these articles. Crude oil, probably we're going to start to see OPEC maybe get back involved in the market, do a bit of manipulation. Remember, with crude, it is in everyone's best interest in terms of the countries selling it, that they want the price to stay at above their production costs, and it needs to be a decent profit. They're pretty much bleeding in terms of their economies right now. So I would expect that there will be an OPEC meeting if we got crude getting hit too hard. It is a manipulated market, so therefore always be careful with the amount of risk that you put in these kind of markets. You want to mostly look maybe at stocks in energy instead of necessarily trading the futures, and contango is another thing that we saw this year that was a bit of a problem. If you don't know what contango is, I recommend you read up on it. And I think I created an oil video on it ages ago talking about contango. Very important fact, catches out a lot of futures traders. So always look up those kind of things and understand them. Bit of a silver move up, and of course gold is trading higher. We'll talk about gold in just a minute. So let's actually go over to copper first. Let's talk about where copper's going, whether it's negative or positive. So copper's actually moved a little bit negative today, still testing that 20 overall. But few people ask me, how do I get this copper chart on my trading view? Easiest way, search copper in Google. So search copper, Google, trading view. It'll come up. I don't know why copper is not showing when you search it, but it is not doing that. Yeah, so copper is still relatively strong, showing us that we don't have any worries about an overall big crash here. Let's now take a look at pre-market on a few of our favorite stocks. So a few of the sentiment driving stocks. We'll look at Apple, Nvidia, Tesla. How long until? 7 minutes until unemployment figures. And we'll re-look at all of these. So we've got up market here on Apple, 119.27, 1.66% up. It looks okay. I mean, obviously this candle here was pretty terrifying. I mean, if you were a longer, but at this point we have just tapped the 20 realistically on the daily. That could be resistance here for it today. Notice it's going to open up at this stage at the 119.27, right around that 20. The 20 has been holding the stock on the way up, just like we always usually find. And a break low, remember, a break low underneath this candle here, this wick of the pin bar of the hammer is incredibly bearish. If that happens and you get a close, so what I mean by that is you get a candle that closes underneath the zone. So it needs to close under here, so a little bit extra, and you actually get the body underneath there. It's actually very bearish because of the nature of the strong rejection in the first place. So always remember that when you're looking at these types of candles. It's a bit of a tip, and I definitely think it pays to pay attention to that tip as well. All right, let's load up Nvidia. Another incredible stock at the moment. Big volume. Why am I looking at these stocks particularly? I look at these stocks because I think it's more about sentiment of the market. If these are strong, then the sentiment is good. If these are weak, then the sentiment is bad. Now again, look at this test. The test right at the low didn't get body close underneath. This is still a very significant body close. In fact, I think if it got under this zone, it might just bust completely through that 50. It may not care about it all. On to the next structure point. So the next structure point is going to be that 424, and I would be instantly going over to the weekly and seeing if that lined up with my 20, which it does. This is kind of what I expect to happen in the market. I really expect it to try to test these points because this would be a very nice pullback, of course, but more importantly, it would be kind of healthy and get it back to the zone. Otherwise, I expect it to really range in an area as the 20 catches the market. Something like that. I don't necessarily expect more euphoria highs. If that happens, we're going into bubble territory. We don't necessarily want that. Remember, keep those questions coming and we'll answer as many as we can throughout the stream. 10:26 right now, so we've got 4 minutes. Ryan says, can you talk about how to get in during pre-market and what order type is best to use? So pre-market, if you want to get in, there's no real best order type. It depends on the structure that you're seeing pre-market. So what I like to do is if I'm looking at, let's say, this particular thing, I'm looking at the Nasdaq. Now, I think there's been a huge amount of false breakouts on the smaller time frames, but you automatically go down to a 1 hour and you know that this 11.5 area, just before that, we've found multiple resistance points on the 1 hour here on the futures. So if we get through there and close, theoretically, we should see the market go up a little bit, hopefully come back, exhaust, and then move up to the next zone. That's what I'd be doing. Now, would I be using a market order to get through this? No. Would I even trade it off the breakout? Possibly I'd trade a portion off the breakout, and then I would wait for the rest to come back down, tap the area, and I'd use a buy limit for that. So you're going to use a mixture of different orders, if that makes some sense. That's the way I'd be looking at it. I am not a fan, I'll tell everyone right now, I am not a fan of the smaller time frames right now. They are hard to trade. Very hard. Now you say, okay, over here, we had some structure and it came back down in the futures and traded off it. But again, you can always see things that work out. I just think it's tough to do that kind of trading at the moment. Doesn't mean you can't always do it. All right, some other ones. Do you see oil going short? Just a fun fact myself. Yeah, look, oil can definitely go short. It's already shorting. It's already rolling over for sure. Okay, some other questions we've got here. Can you talk about, yep, we've done that one. Gem and Joe, is there an explanation for the circus that the ASX recently? It's making no sense and making very big swings intraday. For e.g. today, it looks like it's going to mimic the US yesterday. Yeah, look, the Australian market's just jumping up and down. It's because the futures are trading the way they are. Like we've got sell-offs into the close, so therefore people think the day is going to be weaker. That's the kind of thing that we are seeing. No one really has any idea of what the US is going to trade like. And because of that, we're seeing big volatility through weaker markets. Also, Australia is dealing with a whole bunch of fiscal kind of problems and, of course, shutdowns as well. So people are trying to figure out exactly how much that's going to hurt some of the companies. We don't have a diverse market like the US does. I've always said this, and I'll say it again. The US market is the better market. Much better companies overall. Whether we like to admit it or not, Australia is kind of weak in companies for out of this pandemic. Hey, Tom, Dave from London here. Love having your take and it's refreshing. Now, have I missed it? 1 minute. Sorry, Dave. We'll answer your question in a minute. Let's go over to, well, let's actually watch these markets and I'll load it up on my side here and let's have a look what goes on with this unemployment figure. So it should be coming out right now. Go down to the smaller time frames here. We'll go down to a 1 hour, I think. See what happens. And we've got the 1 hour on the Nasdaq. Nasdaq right, S&P 500 left. Let me just quickly pull these numbers up. Should be coming through anytime soon. And we'll see how the market reacts to them. Now, again, I'm not a big news fan. So when the news comes out, I like to see the closes happen. It's actually a flag here on this time frame. You can see the flag. You can obviously see a big pole. So if it does start cracking up, it's actually showing a bit of bullish movement. That is definitely a flag. Quickly draw a fib on that as well. Whenever you're doing flags, do you want to see some kind of fib pullback? Yeah, you don't usually want to see a deeper pullback than a 38.2. And ideally, it only wicks into the 50. Why is that? Well, because pretty much we don't want to have the market. Okay, so the number's in 884. 884. A little bit worse. So forecast was 838, previous 881. How will the market react to that? market. S&P probably shouldn't like it, but I don't think it's that big a deal. It's not too off. We'll just see if they use it as a catalyst. Yeah, so with flags, 38.2 fib ideally. We do not want to have it further pull back than that. Think of it this way. If you have a flag and you have a massive flag and a small pole, it's not going to fly in the wind. It's going to be a crap. So we don't want that in the market. We want shorter pullbacks. So right at the resistance. Now, another lesson to be learned, we have a potential pattern here and obviously a potential break here into the market right ahead of news. So resistances and supports often get reached before the news comes out. I'll bring up my chat again and we'll see. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of stuff coming in. Nate says, let's hope volatility increases. I think there could be fireworks. I'm streaming for a reason. Let's see if we can get some here. No worries, T. Raiden. Thank you very much. I'm glad you're here. Hopefully you subscribe and enjoy. All right, Dave from London. Love having a take and refreshing. Do you ever use order flow volume profiling? So yeah, we do definitely. Look, volume is super important when it comes to stocks. I specifically look at volumes as two things. I look at volume. I love looking at kind of, I guess, stocks that are really, really popular to trade. So in Australia, a classic case of that is FMG. No one probably knows what that is unless you're Australian. It's an iron ore company. Because it has massive volume on it and the nature of the way it trades, I like that because then I can say, okay, that is a retail trading beast where people are trading it. It's going to have a lot of technicals on it and a huge amount of volume. Then there's different types of volumes. You've got obviously the volume that's coming into the tech stocks right now. We know that this is a huge amount of retail traders, Robinhood, sentiment. So it's going to, when it busts new levels, it's going to fly. And then, of course, you've got accumulation, which is where the main kind of value dip buyers should be at. You should learn about accumulation and volume from there. So yeah, look, we use all sorts of things, obviously volume profile and that type of stuff. I definitely recommend it. In Forex, it's useless. You won't have enough of the spread. In Forex, if you have like a Bloomberg terminal, you can see the options. And when you can see the options, as in the big maturing options at certain levels, you'd be surprised how much the Forex commodities and everything goes to those areas before expiry. Crazy. There's some big options sometimes in Forex. How long do you think WTI will go down before OPEC gets involved? I don't think they'll want it under 30, probably 35 to 32. That's a complete guess, but makes sense. Somewhere around that cost structure that hurts them. PE ratio of Apple is 35, so I don't see it going to drop so low to be on discount PE around 20. I agree, Laka. I don't think Apple is going that low. It's going to be too tough for it to get that low during... Basically, it's got amazing cash flow, amazing cash on hand, amazing opportunities, and of course, they are going to have an increase in earnings because more people are using the ecosystem. Like, I know right now I want a new Apple TV. I just want one. Now, they might not be the best Apple TV out there, but I want one. I'm going to buy it when it comes out. Bryce says, are we not already in bubble territory? I know some of these questions are a little bit old, but that's fine. Look, I think we are in some things, but not in the general kind of market. Maybe not. Do I see a lower low on the SPY as a possible bull trap? I think we've talked about this. We'll go through it during the stream. I think 3,300, 3,200 is pretty big buying. Okay, the UK is going to leave the EU for good on 31st of December. Do you think it's smart to save up some capital to deploy when the market tanks on the news? I think you'll find a lot of the news is already built in. Tom, can you please clarify on how to differentiate between a pullback and a change of trend? If possible, please use US dollar CAD 4 hours reference. Okay, we can try to do that a little bit later. Let me write that down. I want to do US dollar CAD a little bit later. Obviously, we've got market coming in. Thank you very much for everyone that's joining. I will try to get through as many of these questions as possible. Some good ones here. Am I bullish on FMG? Not at this price. All right, let's have a look at some pre-market now that we've seen the news come out. Obviously, if you don't already have it, you need to use something like forexfactory.com. We'll just quickly refresh this. Remember, 17th of September in Australia, so probably the 16th in America. It's going to be the most important news that you need to put in your calendar if you're a stock market trader. And we had that 884 figure, so a little bit off from what they expected. Let's go over here. Wow, that is a superior move. So this was kind of expected by me. I probably should have said on the Tuesday stream that this could happen. So Nikola is a hype train, and unfortunately, this is a classic case of it's super volume traded, but it's volume traded off hype, and people are just in it to make money, and probably not that many people truly believe in the company. I know there's going to be some haters out there that will say, I believe in it. But look, it's hard to believe in the company just yet. So we've got a pretty decent sell-off here coming through to that, it looks like. Let's have a look now at the Tesla. So 384, Nikola is down 7.27, down 15 yesterday as well. So that's really that initial hype being sold off. Similar to Zoom, similar thing. Oh, T-Raden, thank you very much. You don't have to give him the money, but I do appreciate that. That's a coffee for sure. I'll get that tomorrow. Thanks, T-Raden. $5. Very nice. So yeah, 330 held for Tesla. Obviously break under here for anyone that likes Tesla. 280. We'll load up Tesla, but basically there's moving averages around here as well. I'm thinking more structure points. Tesla likes trading off the structure. I don't think that we're necessarily going super high yet, but it all depends on sentiment from the market. So if we have a look over here and we go down to the 4-hour on Tesla, what happened on the way down? Well, we had structure around this point. And that makes sense then, of course, why it's going to open around this point. We've got previous support, previous resistance. It's going to be the pullback zone where now we are going to see and test today. There's so many test points in the market today. So many test points. Igor says, greetings from Croatia. We've got a lot of people around the world. That's awesome. I've never been there. Can you talk about gold mining stocks? Because inflation, it's doing its thing. So it looks like they could be good and go up a lot. Look, they can. I think they're capped ultimately by their mines and how much gold they have as well. I always would want to look and understand how much they truly have. So I don't mind gold stocks, but some of them can be run incredibly poorly. So always look at the balance sheets. I prefer to probably buy the blue chip gold stocks. But yes, that's a definite way of doing it. Obviously, Warren Buffett bought Barrick. Tesla finding opening at pretty much the point of role reversal. We will watch this during the open. It's very, very important to see Tesla. Now, if it busts through this high here, the 425 resistance, we could see it all the way back at the new highs. Why is that? Because this will be a huge sentiment changer. 425 bust up high, we could see it all the way back, testing the highs very, very fast. It's an aggressive stock. When it goes through zones, it goes through zones. Big spike, euro, US dollar. Let's have a look at some of the currencies here. We've got the euro, US dollar over here, I believe. Yep, so we've got to move up on the euro. Now, for anyone that doesn't know that, monetary policy decisions, keeping the monetary policy where it is right now, of course, already strong euro. A lot of traders would have been expecting them to pull it back to manage the fact that it's been going up so much. It's not necessarily great for everyone in the EU. So this pullback here is what it was doing. It was consolidating. It gets and busts high here. We automatically are seeing a 121. Why are we seeing a 121? It makes sense pretty much to previous resistances. When we zoom out huge, we can look over here. Look at this, 120, 80, little wicks and bodies and stuff. So if we get high, it's going to fill that gap fairly quickly. And I think the 120.80 is definitely in case. Let's have a look at the markets. They move pretty quickly, so we'll see whether the sentiment is up now. Yep, so sentiment is now moving up. The news wasn't good, but that's the thing. It's going to be doing its own thing. It's price action right now. Lots of great Aussie gold mines. Yeah, look, we've obviously got Newcrest and a whole bunch of others. What do you think of biotech stocks, and can you see them strong in the future? Yeah, I can. Tom's an Apple fanboy. Yeah, well, I worked at Apple a long time ago, so I guess you could say I was a bit of an Apple fanboy. Absolutely. The market is worth, however much someone is willing to pay for it. Have you any thrown ideas of a bubble put? Yeah, look, I think with puts, Nate, you had the option of doing that when we had VIX going positive, when we also had the market going positive at the same time. So that's a great question. When we have that type of thing going on and we have positive VIX, positive market, it's probably a good time to put a put in. Put call ratio will also be getting quite a lot lower. So here we are, and we're sitting at 10:41 my time. So pretty much we're going to open in 50-ish minutes, and it looks like the futures are moving up. So we're cracking or trying to crack that 11.46 on the Nasdaq, and of course we're trying to do this flag thing on the S&P. DXY falling. Let's have a look at the DXY now, and then go back over to fewer stocks. So a lot of things are opening at critical points. Had that move up here as well on the Euro New Zealand quickly, and now it's reversing. Dollar index is still remaining in a kind of area where I'd like to see it pull back up. Now let's crack through the 20 and moved and closed above. I want to see this dollar index here tomorrow, or even a full bullish reversal. If it's going to go long, it needs to try to do it right here. So very critical points actually here in the market for quite a few things. Now we've still got that 93, 80, 94 zone. Remember, there's no real strong buying of dollar until we get up to this zone, break through this zone, and then a retest back to this zone. It's a good trade. that's the kind of thing where you see 95, 96 and a complete sentiment change switch in dollar index. Another interesting one, and we'll load it up on the right-hand side here, US dollar yen. Now, I'm going to talk about this, and again, if you're here for stocks, it's still very relevant, this type of stuff. Net negative, a lot of people are on US dollar yen. So I think a lot of retail clients, a lot of retail sentiment is negative US dollar yen. So it'd be interesting to watch this one. I'd recommend you put it on your charts and have a look and just see whether, when we've got incredible negative from the retail market, does the actual thing go negative or positive? Thanks very much for all the subscriptions coming through. I really appreciate that. Amazing support from the trading community recently. And look, I just think the community keeps getting better as well. Not to say it's not being good, but it is improving constantly. And I really do appreciate all the comments and the support on these streams. We'll be doing a US election day special. And obviously, whenever we've got volatility, especially while I'm in lockdown here in Melbourne, might as well get on the charts and cover some stuff and answer some questions. I know it was really hard for me when I first started trading, especially in 2008, to get information. There was so much, I'll call it dodgy information on the internet. And I made some pretty big mistakes. Would you mean red VXX and red markets would be a buy signal? Yeah, I mean, if that happened, Brian, that is super rare. You're basically seeing the VIX, the red markets will almost never. That one, I don't even know if I've seen that correlation, but I'm sure it's possible. So what Brian's saying is basically we have negative VIX, so we've got red VIX, and we've got a red market at the same time. That'd be some wild correlation. Technically, yes, I guess you would be buying. Another Brian here. Maybe the other one's Bryn. No, I think it's Brian. They're both Brian. Hey, Tom, thanks for the last live stream. You showed me the EMA setup on TradingView charts. I missed my break even by 3 points at 11,405. And what happened? I don't want to know if he got crushed. Got crushed later that night. No. Brian, that's not good. That sucks. Yeah, so you had a 10,935 stop. Okay. Obviously long and probably a little bit of leverage. I feel for you, mate. That's not good. Tesla running up. We'll have a look at Tesla. I'd like to see sentiment pre-market on a few of these stocks. So 385. So we're still pretty much sitting around that same level. Obviously, left-hand side's Nikola. I've got it there just because the volume is big. I lost 200 on Slack. What do you think about the future of this company? I heard the earnings report was not the best, unfortunately. Let's have a look at Slack. I think the company should be good. They need to build it out, though. I use it personally, and I think they're going to get, like, almost Discord is almost better than it. It's free. That's not good. But yeah, they do need to definitely improve it. So Nvidia still very long. Let's have a quick look at Slack. So let's work here. And of course, the movement down. This is one of those things where you can now be seeing a volume or potential buying. Now, I have a rule, and a few people will know this. Answer the rule in the room. Let's see if a few people have been to a couple of my live streams. What's my rule about stocks on the market? Let's see if anyone knows this one. I'll answer another question while we get that one through. Groundhog Day Melbourne, Logan says, yes. Anyone in Melbourne feels the pain. We are in the strictest lockdown in the world. You can't go outside your house after 8 or 9. I don't even know anymore. We're locked in till 26th of October. I don't even know what date it is. I don't care. It's annoyed me now. 5-year rule. There we go. Got a lot of people coming in. Nice. Yes, I have a 5-year rule. I'll call it the Tom Buffett approach. And basically, I do this because I got burnt buying a whole bunch of IPOs over time. If I buy an IPO and I get it pre-market and it has like one of the things I love is when you get scaled back, but you still get a bit of it, yeah? And if you get a bit of it and you put in for the max or whatever you can do, and then you sell it, a few days in, because everyone buys that thing and then it gets crushed. But the 5-year rule. Now, why do I do the 5-year rule? Well, basically, I want the actual, especially tech. I'll put it 5-year tech rule because generally tech companies come in hot. Everyone thinks they're the best thing since sliced bread. Earnings get questioned. We get like a kind of a rise of optimism. Earnings get questioned. It takes a while for the market to warm to the company and the market to effectively mold the company. When a company goes IPO and goes live, they become responsible to the shareholders. They have to change it. Look at Facebook, look at Snap, look at Twitter, look at any of those stocks that have come out. The first 5 years, or especially 3 years, you can make it the 3-year rule if you want on tech, were terrible. And then if you buy it after that 3-year slump, it becomes good. I believe in Slack. I want to see them improve their platform. And when I see that, because I use it, I'll be like, yeah, okay, we're good. I'd like to see it down here at the $22 to $20 range, obviously for accumulation. I think this would be very, very nice. And we did see that breakout below the support there. It was ahead of news. It was right sitting there, and then it busts down. Slack 0.83 in the open. I need to do prison break. Yeah, I need to fly overseas. Trend is your friend? Absolutely. Village Beer Garten Restaurant FP Stefan. That's a long name. A dodgy best Aussie term. No one else uses dodgy? Americans don't use dodgy? Oh, okay. Didn't know that. The internet still has dodgy information, just not this channel. The thing is with the internet is if you ever have like this kind of thing going on top of a page, and then it has like a video, and then it has a stream, and then it has another video, and then it has testimonials, and then it has more dollars, don't do that. We all know that one. If you day trade stock for profit, then the next stock you take is a loss that is greater. Do you still get taxed for the capital gain, or is it based overall gains losses? Okay, so it depends on the country you're in. In Australia, you would have, if it was in the same tax year, you would have a profit and then you would have a loss. And effectively that loss would be bigger, so they'd net off if you're because of capital gains tax. So you'd end up having a bought forward capital loss. This is not a tax channel, but yeah, you'd be fine. Definitely read on tax though in your country. I think a lot of people don't look at the markets enough from the perspective of what is the government trying to achieve. Tax structures are so important to success in trading, actually, for longer term investing. If you understand, kind of in Australia, we're super biased towards housing. Any Australian will know that. Super biased towards housing. In America, super biased, in my opinion anyway, towards the stock market. Look at the Fed. Look what the Fed's doing. Look at your tax structures in your country. Figure out what the best long hold timings are. Figure out where the best capital kind of risks are and all those types of things. Brian says Jerome Powell 2020. You must be up profits from Jerome, Brian. I now use the name Macca's thanks to you. Yeah, Macca's is good. Shane knows about Macca's. He's Australian. Hungry Jack's is our Burger King. That is true. But Burger King's way cooler. Burger King has that crazy mascot. I see why Tom dismisses futures generally. SP 500 futures was like negative 0.6 like an hour ago, and now it's plus 0.3 even though jobs report was bad. Probably based on the ECB, based on the fact they're keeping stimulus. Everyone feels great about that. It never left the current bull market. Yeah, absolutely. So look, the market's here. We've got the S&P 500 and Nasdaq. Keep sending through some things that we want to look at. We'll look at Boeing in just a minute. I know I've got to look at US dollar CAD after the market open. Probably do that. We've got 39 minutes or something till the market opens. So a whole bunch of things can happen on the futures before the market opens. We've seen a pretty interesting first hour trade in the market, generally bullish. Remember, when you're looking, I'm not going to be screaming till the end of the market, but when you're looking at things, always pay more attention to what happens at the end of the day, the last hour, especially the last couple of minutes of trade into the close. If you continuously see sell-offs into the close, that is pretty telling of what the real traders are doing. They're dumping stocks into the close. So I think we've had now 2 days of selling into the close. Let's see if we get a third. I'll probably make a video about it tomorrow if we get one. Kyle says hi from the UK. Hello, Kyle. All right, what else have we got here? All right, Americans do not use the word dodgy. South Africans and Aussies use dodgy. All right, there we go. We also use mate. I'm pretty sure no one else does that. Hi from, Ruby says, hi from Singapore. Second time watching your live videos, and I like it. That's good. Would you like to know your take on SQ and NEO? Will they be multi-baggers? All right, I don't know about multi-baggers, but my take on NEO remains the same. Trade, not invest. Why do I say that? Crazy sentiment trade. When things break big technicals, like when they break out, they go crazy. When they bust down, they go crazy. It is a trading stock. It's huge volume here. I'm not a huge fan of it long term, but you know what? I kind of didn't bet on Elon. I'll admit it. I don't have Tesla stock. Well, I do through indices, but I don't have it, yeah? I mean, I've traded it a few times, but I treat it like a trade. Kind of like Bitcoin. I trade that like a trade as well. I don't mind if you hold it long term. That's cool. It's just different kind of ways. Brian says futures are green as... I'm not going to say that next word. So, yeah, look, I think Nikola is fine if you trade it. That would be the answer. Nikola has struggled in such a bull market red flag. I think the red flag is here. This. Even Tesla can't compete with that kind of move. That just shows that everything started here. Then people believed it's a real company. Then it had the blow off. It had the pullback to the 61.8 fib we always talk about. Then it had the strong kind of move down. Obviously flushed a lot of people out. We had the GM news, makes everyone think it's great, sells off, probably buys back up just because it can when it gets to the low. It's a trader's market on the small time frames. It's kind of like that stock that you put like dollars in and you go, and it's gone. But there's a chance that it goes long. And you put it in there, you put your stop loss in or you whatever, and you just think of it as gone. And then you can take a multi-bagger just based on crazy sentiment. But in terms of long-term investability, this does not get my tick of approval, but it's only my tick of approval. What do I know about that one? Harley says, hi Tom, can you briefly explain how futures price is determined? I'm not really exactly sure on that question, Harley, in terms of how it's determined. I mean, obviously it's based on trade. I don't have the full answer of exactly the way that they structure it out though. That being said, I still don't pay that much attention to it. I like real volume, real trade, what the old school is, because the old school works still. Shane says, we're in prison because we started as a prison country. That's true, Shane. We were built on convicts. Keep those questions coming in. Now we have to look at Boeing. Let's look at Boeing. Let's check that stock out. Euro US dollar continues its move higher. Oh. What do we got here? 1 second. All right, so we still continue short here. This company obviously has a huge amount of headwinds in it. I think the longer we continue without the positive news in terms of any kind of vaccine, anything like that, these stocks are really showing the true sentiment of the market. It's why you kind of see the tech stocks move up. They've got a lot of reasons to. This is actually finding SUP right where it needs to. You do not want to break under this zone. You do not want to break under this zone. Why is that? Underneath here, all of a sudden we go to that 120. All of a sudden we go under this 120. I think that this could short incredibly fast if it has superior negative news. This is like the area though you expected to buy off. You expected to buy off this zone. Now, do I think Boeing will do fine long term? Yeah, I think it'll be fine. I mean, you can see how long it came off. I mean, it came off some pretty big highs. I think it'll be all right. But at the same time, you know, you're buying a bit of a negative sentiment kind of thing. It's a true value stock right now. I don't know. I think there's better value stocks out there. But it's a popular one. Not something I buy. Because I just don't like kind of stocks that have done this kind of crashing. And then they haven't been able to recover during this crisis and this period. Now, it makes sense this can't recover, but overall, because no one's flying, I mean, the cash flow is horrible. But at the same time, I like good cash flow companies. I just find it easier to buy a quality cash flow company. What does Warren Buffett say? He always says, it's better to buy a great company at a fair price than buy a good company at a great price. It's pretty true. A lot of people think he's lost his step in that kind of thing, but I do believe it. Tesla has great technical patterns, easy to trade. It has aggressive breakouts, Siddharth. So when it breaks out, you can just basically take the breakout. You don't have to wait about it coming back and doing a little test. Generally, it just keeps going, which is cool. Kyle, I'm 100% long Tesla. Made 100K in a year from 18K. Life changer. Make sure, Kyle, you hold that money, man. As in, you don't lose it. Try to hold it. Make a decision of potentially scaling, whatever you want to do, but definitely protect some of your money. It's always worthwhile. That's a lot of money, man. So at your age, so that's really awesome. Well, actually, I don't know your age, but it's from 18K, it's still a life changer. So, you know, I've seen a lot of people go hard and make a lot of money in crypto and other things and then lose it all, unfortunately. Pause trials of vaccines at the moment. Yeah. Well, vaccines aren't easy to make. A lot of people think they're going to be easy to make and then they're not. So yeah, BA, really, it's on the SUP it needs to be. It's very clear here on the weekly. We've got the previous resistance, previous support, very clear. We go to the monthly, have a look what's happening there. It is important to look at the monthly candles. Always go top-down approach. That's what we talk about here. You can see why when it broke through here, it just got busted down. Now, obviously, it's a crisis, but even if it had broken through this zone, that's actually a head and shoulders. We've got left, head, right, and it'll show up on the weekly as well. So it's pretty bad sentiment. It had way too big a run up though, Boeing. All right, let's take a look at the VIX coming into the market. Kyle, I'm 21. Kyle, keep it, man. Compound, dude. Try to diversify. I'm technically a financial planner by trade, so I just think that it's that you gotta do your own decisions. Obviously, I'm not going to give you that kind of thing, but yeah, it's always good to think about what you're doing. All right, so VIX is 28.26. in terms of where we're going to get to. So if we get in here and we keep falling through all the way back down to these low 22s, seems likely. We want to see a spike tonight, everyone, for the bear side. Not sure how many people are bearish here, but I know there's a lot of bearish interest, obviously, in the market because everyone wants to buy the dip. Bit of a break here in the futures coming to the market. We're now 1.1 up. We were down about 0.8 only a few hours ago, as a few people said. What CFD broker do you use? Well, I guess, look, I'll recommend for Forex and commodities, I'll always recommend Pepperstone. And obviously, they do have some CFDs. There's other brokers out there. I mean, personally, I mostly trade with margin loans. But there's plenty of great brokers. Most of the brokers that are regulated are fine nowadays. Fastly. Oh, you say there's a head and shoulders pattern. All right, let's have a look at Fastly. This is the question from Jason. Fastly. All right. So what time frame are we looking at here for the head and shoulders? We've definitely got a lot of structure through this zone with a lot of craziness going up and down. So it looks like daily. Yep, fair enough. Everyone probably sees it by now. You look at this, you've got here, got the head, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Very fair level through here. Obviously, you want to put a horizontal line and get the bodies up. So around this zone here. Yeah, absolutely. It's bouncing off the right area here. What I'd probably do with this trade is I actually wait for it to get under this zone. And then most likely with a stock like this, it's going to bounce up because stocks are inherently long. Find resistance here and that will give you the short opportunity. But it needs to buy here. It needs. And this is good because you've got the bullish pin bar, the hammer here. You've got the buy up off the gap, and you've obviously got a new high forming today, which is quite bullish. But this is still in play as a potential head and shoulders. We just need to see it confirm and close below. It's a good spot. It's definitely the correct pattern. All right, so some other questions coming in here. Tesla is a great trader's stock with good exit strategies. Absolutely, Shane. Jason says, hi, Tom. Great videos. Could you review... Oh, yeah, that's the Fastly one. No worries. That's my review of that. It is a head and shoulders. And I think that this zone here is incredibly important to it. And it looks quite bullish at the moment. Shadow Man says, we gave up the guns. That's true, Shadow. We did. But it's all right. Oh, what are the statistics on companies lasting 20 plus years? I don't have that stat with me, Shane, so I'd be just guessing it. But I think you will find that you do have a decent amount of companies that cannot survive 20 years. Quite a lot indeed. And we've already seen a huge changing of the guard over the last decade. Look at some of the old card. Look at GM. Look at General Electric. General Electric is just a terrible, hideous thing. Let's have a look, bring up GE. Oh man, it's a bad stock. Let's have a look at a month on this. The decline of an era. Look at that. That's when the Buff Master made all his money. This is the kind of thing that was going on in the market back then. Look at that. Isn't that ridiculous? Whee! That's pretty good. It's all happened before, everyone. Everything that you can think of has all happened before. This thing, I would be so depressed if I bought it back in the 90s and I held this stock. That would be not cool. But yeah, this is definitely the decline. And it's why it's just, IBM is very similar. You look at IBM and it's just not the same stock as it once was. It's just not doing well. It's too big for its own good. It's done very poorly. This is obviously one of the ones Buff bought as well. Top 3 stocks you are bullish on long term. Look, always bullish Apple, which is an easy pick. Bullish Disney, and I'm pretty bullish the old Buffett himself, the Berkshire, at the right price as well. Kind of bullish railroads. All right, let's go through here, and a few more questions coming in. Battery day 22nd, Kyle says. You are a fan of the Tesla. Absolutely. The 22nd for everyone out there. Battery day. Let's see if it hype trains off it. Probably good trading day. Almost should stream it. Just watch it go crazy each way. Disney, Amazon, Apple from Shane. Well, there you go, Shane. We think alike on that aspect. Dave, Alphabet. Hey, I'd agree with you that Alphabet's technically the better buy, but the problem is that they have not done anything. They keep making terrible stuff. So we're seeing actually the VIX dropping here into the market. So obviously the market is starting to heat up coming in. We are now at 11:06, so we're 24 minutes away from the bell. Let's see what happens here. Actually, everybody, put your 3 top stocks. Let's see what some of the answers are here. 3 top stocks for the future. You should also be always thinking about AI as well. So obviously Amazon is a good pick there. Any of the big tech stocks are good there, Microsoft, etc. AI leaders are going to be big, especially when companies are going to be looking at trying to do that. Quick review here of the ASX 200, just because I know a lot of people in here are Australians. This is the weakness that we're seeing. I've drawn a fib of the pullback. Now, you can see why in the US so many people were calling shorts around the 61.8 fib of the pullback. This is the 61.8 fib of the Australian market. Look at it. Find resistance through this point. The 200 simple moving average, 2050 cross here. Crappy day at the moment in terms of rejection, but there's still strong buying support at this 5650, 5600. I'm going to read out some of these things that are coming in. Let's see what people are liking. Hannah doesn't even have 3. Hannah says Bank of America. That is it. I like that one. All right, Tesla, Amazon, SQ. Kyle is the modern generation of investors there. Wayne says Microsoft, Facebook, Google. Yep, fair enough. Amazon, Tesla, MasterCard from Jake. PayPal, Nvidia, Google from Unexpected. I don't know some of these stocks from Kyle here as well. We've got EML and ALL and NVA. Corey, Fulcrum, Microsoft, Tesla, Amazon. Fair enough. Got any interesting ones? Tesseco Mines. Amazon, Nvidia, Apple. A lot of Nvidias here. Absolutely. Baba, JPM, and AAPL. It's interesting. Jake just says Afterpay. Jake, be concerned. What do you think about PayPal, Jake? Are you scared of PayPal in this one? The Watson channel, are we going to crash again? Question marks. Look, mate, I don't think so. We look at copper. Look at copper. Always follow your copper. If you want copper, if you want an early indicator of crash, look at your copper. January 15th, we saw copper dive before the US market dove. So that is always a good indicator for market crashes, and I do suggest you look at copper. Neo, Tesla, Square. It's amazing how many people have very similar thought processes here. In terms of, there's a lot of stocks coming in, and Nvidia and Tesla are some of the most picked. Square is going to do bad things to PayPal and MasterCard. Lol, Afterpay, PayPal, who? Lol. Yep. Long financials always need money. I think the problem with financials is maybe that we go into incredibly low rates for a long time and then they get the Deutsch effect, or however you say it. Someone told me off for the pronunciation of that. Mons has the right idea. Hertz, GE, and Ford. They're great picks, Mons. How is Hertz doing? I haven't even looked at that thing after I considered it the most ridiculous stock in the market a while ago. How is old Hertz going? Very good. Is it even trading anymore? Still $1.40. Poor Carl Icahn. He didn't do so well out of this one. Uber Mag AWK. I'm still holding. This is somebody else's answer. Hey Tom, earlier you spoke about not taking a head and shoulders trade if it goes more than half of your expectation. Can you explain that a bit more? Is it only head and shoulders? No, it's all patterns, Kevin. So yeah, I think we should explain that. How many minutes till open? Let's get it on one of the other charts quickly. 11:10. Let's have a look through, and I just want to quickly check out Apple, check out some of the stocks. Microsoft coming into the open. I guess we expect them all to be up. So let's get rid of Slack for a minute. Just load up AAPL. And we are seeing pre-market 2.59 at 120 handle now. Let's go down to the daily here and just see if that's right at the point. So we're right at that 20 still, sitting right at the point where it's going to be decision time into the open. Could see selling off that as well. Let's have a look now at Microsoft. The giant itself, what's it trading at? So Microsoft's been relatively weak and obviously had that big move up, but it's really struggled recently. It hasn't had the sentiment on it that Apple and Square and other things have. Let's have a look at Square, considering that came straight off the 50 the other day. So very similar, but this is actually exactly the same candle formation as Apple and the other tech stocks that all trade the same way. They all trade the exact same candle formations. Guess that does make sense. A little bit weaker in the pre-market here for Square than the others. So it is interesting. And we'll go back over to the US 500 and Nasdaq. So let's answer that question. So why do I believe that when you're looking at double bottoms, when you're looking at head and shoulders, that when it goes over 50 to 60% of the way, you don't want to take it on the pullback? So the main reason for that is when we think about it, we have a double bottom pattern, okay? And then it breaks through and it shows that aggressive strength. Now, our expectation is, of course, to take the distance or the range of the double bottom. Now, an ideal double bottom is you take even more because it should be the end of a trend, as in the trend's coming down, and the start of a new trend. But technically, that's your take. Now, if it goes too far in the direction, we also may have some structure over here that's potentially rejecting it, but it also has completed a huge amount of it. So it actually has to pull back very aggressively and too much for it to then move back up. During this pullback, you get a change of sentiment on a lot of the smaller timeframes as well, and you get a whole bunch of moving averages as well on the smaller timeframes in front of you. So I don't like it because it's already completed what some people will be taking out profit. Why did it stop there in the first place? And if it needs to go back up, then all of a sudden you've got this potential double top that can form really quickly up here. What I prefer with the double bottom pattern is it goes up a little bit, pulls back to like a 23.6 or 38.2 fib, which then becomes the intervening kind of peak here, and then I take it long. So I do not like taking stuff that has gone too far. I'm not a big fan of that, and that's mostly because I think it has to pull back too far, and then when it comes back up, you're kind of asking yourself the question, well, should I just take resistance here? It becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy. When a market goes up and then aggressively pulls back into the zone, it doesn't go up too much, then when it goes back up again, no one really cares about this area. They care more about the longer one. Hopefully that answers a bit of your question. Doesn't matter for what pattern though. I don't like it when it goes over 60%. I just wait for wedges to form and jump on the blow off. Sadal says, I think wedges are cool, but I do think that whenever you're drawing, remember if you're a beginner trader, you're new this year, and whatever you probably think about the market, you're going to learn a lot more. The market has a tendency to make us feel very arrogant about how much we know. I'm always learning every day on what's going on in the market. I'm going to read that NBA comment in the moment about cards because I think it's funny. But basically, it always has this tendency to make us think that we always know everything, and then we make all these mistakes. Drawing trend lines, you sometimes curve fit. I noticed a lot of people on YouTube are curve fitting trend lines. They're drawing like this, and they're saying, yeah, that's a trend line, or this is a trend line, or whatever. They could be, but it's not going to be as good as horizontal support resistance. Why is that? Well, horizontal support and resistance, it's very hard to get it wrong. It's very hard to get it wrong, and it's very easy to spot it, and it's usually around psychological numbers as well. So you've got a lot of things in your favor when using horizontals. Definitely consider using horizontals. I just want to read this comment because it's funny. Oh, okay. It Travels with Giggles says, I've got NBA cards from 1993, got a few Jordan ones in there. Does anyone remember the baseball card and NBA card craze? Now, that was a bubble that went bad. It's really interesting to see some of the collectible markets that have come back, though. I know it's not a collectibles channel, but when you look at collectible markets right now, you look at the watch community, you look at the comic book community, all those things, they're all going crazy right now. Everything, every alternative to the US dollar is going wild. Comic books lead up to millions and millions of dollars now. Obviously, watches, similar. Do you suspect any companies being Enrons? So Enron is a famous case of a very bad company. Look, I think there is plenty of Enrons being potential, but not Enron in terms of that big. There's just a whole bunch of zombie companies everywhere. Yeah, NBA was massive back in the 90s, absolutely. Early 90s, cards were crazy, back when Jordan was all around. Shane says, Tom, I am on the horizontals because you say so. I don't necessarily say do it because of me. Do it because you back check and you look at things and you obviously make your own ideas. But I definitely think that horizontal support resistance and horizontal patterns are easier. I bought puts on Hilton as it looks like it's trading in a bit of a channel. I bought 92.50. Any thoughts on Hilton, Marriott, technically? Haven't really looked too much at the hotels and those chains. Let's have a quick look at Hilton. Well, how many minutes are we away here? 13 minutes till open, everyone. 13 minutes. Look at this terrible thing, IBM. All right, so is Hilton actually a... Let me just quickly get that. Make sure I get the right code for everyone. Oh, yeah. All right, so this is Hilton here, and looks like it says here, analysts scale back Hilton worldwide. So when we're having a look at this, I noticed a few articles saying booking.com was pretty good right now. I might have to look at that a little bit later. So this is one that I think you can definitely draw a trend line on. And I think it's very fair to draw this trend line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw through these lows down here. Now, I'm not going to treat it as much gospel because the thing is that, I can curve fit it to the bodies here. I can curve fit it to the wicks. I can do whatever. I'm not going to take this one wick down the bottom here because that was an outlier day during the crisis. But what I will say is it's making a series of higher lows. So it is in an uptrend. It's broken to this 91 area. And then we're finding some coiling market. Importantly as well, behind this coiling market, we have a 200 and a 20 moving average on this time frame. Now that's important because all of these are going to act as dynamic support now. When we get back down, if we get back down to this level, put pressure on the 88, there's going to be two dynamic moving averages finding support. So I think that this does definitely show a bit of a coiled potentially to the upside right now. Notice also through here, there was a huge amount of consolidation through that 90 zone. So we have horizontal mass consolidation through this zone. We can see why the market's struggling at this point. And we also have those wicks. So we need a 93.76 high for it to go super long. We have a bit of support here in the 20 and the 200. Remember, it could be any stock. It's the same kind of ideas. And I quite like where it's sitting. It's coiling at a nice place. Cards are in a new bubble, are they? I don't know much about cards at the moment, but I can probably believe it. I saw how much some of those American cards cost nowadays. My God, you pay like $3,000 to open a box. Wow. Craziness. $3,000 to open some cardboard. YouTube case breakers. They're probably those crazy people they're buying. You get like a little bit of their jersey with a signature on it. Oh, Shane, thank you very much. Another couple of coffees. Thank you very much, Shane. You are the #1 supporter of the channel in terms of YouTube, so thank you very much. Tesla is the new Enron. Buy the rumor and sell the news, says John Madden. Hey, John, let's see. What did somebody say? Kyle before was talking about battery day. So let's see if we get some Tesla buying into the battery day hype. And let's see if we get a sell-off that day. It'd be worthwhile having a look into other Tesla events and seeing how the market, if you're a Tesla trader, you want to know exactly how that thing trades into news and out of news every time. Apple did the same thing. It used to be that you would buy into the Apple announcement, sell the day of the announcement or before the announcement, and then buy it back a few weeks later. Why is that? It came into the hype, sold off hard after it. Even if it was a great product, it would sell off hard. So understand the beast that you are trading. Here's Tesla up 385. So we're still trading. Actually, we're trading a little bit higher now. 385 here, pre-market. So we're trading decently high. Nikola on the left, not looking so good. And we are on the Nasdaq and S&P looking relatively bullish coming into this market. This is a pretty decent futures break. Again, we want to see the real market doing this. Graham says TP hit on S&P 500. Yay. 15-minute mojo is back. Graham's a bit of a fan of the 15-minute on the indices. Fair enough, Graham. I know what you do in the private Discord community, so that's good, mate. Richard says, hi, everyone. Hope everyone is well. Hello, Richard. Good to see you here. Could you look at Zoom? It seems to have not much overhead resistance. So Zoom was obviously the company that came out with the news. Oh, got some freeze up there. So Zoom came out with the news and went crazy, and then of course filled the gap a little bit. Look, I don't particularly like this thing at all. I don't want it. I'll say that right now. Why don't I want it? I don't even like what it did into the earnings. Everyone knew it was going to have a pretty good earnings. It has a pretty damn good earnings, but I just don't like this company. It's not for me again, and I don't like the technical action of it, of the massive gap up followed by a big sell-off. I'd ideally want it to come back down to the structure down 280. I'd just set a limit down there, 300, 280, and I'd just be waiting for it. I'm pretty patient like that with stocks. I don't particularly love this thing. If I love the stock, then yeah, I mean, you're getting a discount on a week ago, but yeah, for me, I just love the structure down here at 280 to 300. I don't know if anyone else agrees with that, but it's just my opinion. I like it down here. I like the technical structure down here, and I do not like that gap and what happened there. But again, you can do whatever you want. I think I just never liked when that kind of thing happens. Market's moving higher again coming into the pre-market. 7 minutes now, everybody. Hello from Texas. Hello, Bazil? I probably got that wrong. Reckon SPY will hit 34.50 today. Yeah, I mean, it's looking like it wants to. 34.50 is, of course, the resistance up here. It's looking like it wants to do that. Obviously, that will put the Nasdaq up a decent amount higher. Nasdaq 11.6, kind of around that zone. We've got the resistance. So if we do see Nasdaq come out of the gate strong, 11.6 is the level we'll be looking at just underneath. And we'll see whether that resistance holds and we get that initial sell-off. Can we look at Amazon? Yeah, I think that's absolutely very, very fair. Let's look at Amazon. Just another thing on that Zoom. I just warn everyone, that kind of stuff out of the gates, it's very, yeah, it's just a bit scary, I think, those kind of movements. So Amazon hit the 50 just like the other stocks. All of them did that rejection kind of candle, still off the 50. We said this week the 50 is going to be the big buy across all of them. They were all synergizing. The market was synergizing with all the main stocks, which it should. We are now hitting the 20 and we are up pre-market. Is that nothing? Or is this chart wrong? Looks like nothing on this particular one. I don't have my other platform up, but flat as a tack potentially. So 20 moving averages all here. When they acted as support on the way up, should act as resistance. So we should see resistance selling across Apple and Amazon into those levels. Call me Bez. All right, Bez, no worries. Can we look at DXY? Yep, we had a look at that. We need to look at gold. I've been neglecting gold and silver, so we'll look at those. We have 6 minutes before open, everybody. 6 minutes. By the way, give me feedback on what you want to see on these things. Do you want to, I mean, you've obviously watched other streams out there. I want to know what everybody likes. Do you want me to have different type of platform on that just has crazy numbers everywhere with watch lists and kind of like when the market opens, we watch like all of the movement across all the stocks? I could definitely get that sorted. What type of things do you want to see to improve the stream? I'm always open to those answers, those questions. I actually really enjoy streaming, so it's a lot of fun to talk with everybody out there. As many people would know, trading is relatively boring when you're sitting there all the time. It's fun, but if you don't have other people that are interested in it with you, it can be boring, and that sucks. So gold came off that 1920 base. We've got the nice bullish pin bar here. Decent action here in terms of gold as well. I assume Bitcoin is doing hopefully as well. It's got good structure on Bitcoin. But I like gold, and I think this 1972, we want to see a body break above there. We get above there, then we go straight back into the 2000. Could be some good swing trade opportunities here. Let's go down the 4 hour and see what's happening. So had that point. Now, here's an interesting point. On the Tuesday live stream, I said this is a close that's significant. I actually went and had a look at my data, and this particular data, the 4 hour, is on the wrong time frame. So do be warned that you want to trade, when looking at 4 hour, you want the right time frame data. We've got almost a 2050 cross here. And in terms of this time frame, we're hitting the 200. We know the 200 acted as support 3 times, then it busted through, then acted as resistance. It will probably act as resistance again. Maybe get a sell-off. If we get a sell-off back into the 1940 structure and it does it slowly, could be good opportunity there for gold longs. And then of course, we've got the resistance over here. Once it busts that through, we're going to go back to the 2000. Gold's in the blow off. It's in a pretty good phase. I like where it is. Kyle says, the loneliest job ever. Streams like this make it bearable. Yep. I used to sit in this like weird chat room back in 2008, and there was like 50 people in there. And I tell you what, it was the best fun, really. I mean, otherwise you just sit there going, what am I doing? Christopher says, making money is never boring. Well, that's true, Chris. That's true. Show us your PJs. Don't worry, I'm not wearing those. Clothed. More videos for the Aussies. Yeah, look, I mean, I do have a limited amount of time, obviously, every day. The biggest interest is in the US markets. I'm also relatively interested in the US markets. I think the Aussie market for me has always been very big cap, large cap kind of companies. Whenever I'm looking at smaller cap stuff, I've always just gone to the American market. But I do understand that Australians out there, we do have a 15% Australian audience and about a 55% American audience. And then everybody else, the UK, Europe, Asia, a lot of Singapore people. Shout out to South Africa and Singapore. Silver, yep, we checked that out. How many minutes have we got here? 2 minutes, so we've got to stay on this chart. So we're coming into the open, 124. Let's have a quick look at the futures screen here. Take a look what's happening. VIX has now dropped down. So VIX was before positive. Now it's turned negative. Crude and Brent still negative for the day. Obviously a move up here off the ECB stuff. It's in dollar drop basically. Gold and silver move up. Let's have a quick look at the crypto market. Crypto market's flat as a tack. Nothing interesting going on there, it looks like. Probably should have expected Bitcoin to go up based on the gold move as well. They've been working a little bit in synergy. Maybe it's lagging it. 1128. Nasdaq obviously showing strength. The futures market has been pretty wild each way in terms of it's not really had strong sentiment here, and I can see why Graham obviously was involved in this. Not only was there buy off here, a little double bottom that's just completed, so that's probably what Graham was looking at in terms of the breakout. Have a look at the 15-minute charts into the open. These are the futures. Left is S&P, right is Nasdaq. Coming in stronger, of course, on the tech than we are on the S&P. Farid says, come to Malaysia. I'll show you around. How do you know I've been to Malaysia? Absolutely. I love Malaysia. Malaysia has awesome food. And way too fast on the roads, guys. I got off at the Malaysian airport, and some person picked me up and proceeded to go 190 kilometers an hour in a van. Terrified me. It was like a crazy roller coaster. Just full tailgating everyone at 190 kilometers. So here we go. 11:30. And we are open. So let's see what happens in the first couple of minutes of trade. First 15 to 30 minutes has been interesting. Let's take a look at where Amazon and Apple are opening as well. See if we're getting them opening up. Should be seeing a lot of touches to this 20. Notice Amazon opens at the 3,300 right on the 20. right on that 20. Apple will be very similar. Let's take a look at Apple, bring that up. Everyone tell me what's going on, what's happening in terms of any other stocks that you're looking at. 119, 120 here at the 20 again. It really should be all into resistance, straight onto the open. Let's have a look at some of our favorites, see what the old Nikola and the old Tesla are doing. So Tesla's right at that structure short area. Can it bust through here today? And then we've got Nikola coming in pretty weak at 9.72 after the initial news. Almost pulled back all the news, similar to Zoom. So very interesting there. So we're seeing selling coming off this futures market. Makes some sense. Remember, that 20 should act as resistance. Technically, that should be the resistance zone on a lot of these. Beyond breaking out soon. A favorite of many traders right now, the old Beyond. Stupid Baddie says Bitcoin generally lagging gold. Well, Bitcoin has a really good structure on it. We'll look at that a little bit later. So the market's opened. It's opened up, of course, from the futures, up from yesterday, but we're hitting 20s across most of the big stocks. So we should be finding some resistance. Remember, whatever happens on the big 2 trillion will definitely push sentiment. A break below 110 opens up 100 on Apple. Should be a lot of buying pressure at the 100. Now, if you're going to buy 100, you don't just sit there and buy 100. You buy like slightly above 100. I'm sure everyone knows by now how to read your volume and have a look also at the markets and the market depth. You'll always notice the double zeros have a huge amount of take profits and stop loss areas. Let's load up BTC as well. Did I miss the bell? Oh, you mean I didn't say ding, ding, ding. That's true. But absolutely, it's bell time. We are open. We'll use this one. All right, so I like this structure on Bitcoin. I just want to talk about it very quickly. We'll go back to the market after that. We'll see what's moving on. This is beautiful. Look at this structure coming through here. Really great sup coming through the 10K. Got good structure coming through here. We're above the 20 now, and we've got that 10.5, 10.6 area. I'd love to see Bitcoin kind of move up a little bit, crack that level, come back down, test it. We'll have the 50 at that stage acting as dynamic support. Should see the 20 coming up to it, and then hopefully move higher to the 11.2 area. I really like Bitcoin's technicals at the moment, everyone. I didn't like this a few years ago, but this 11.2, that's a beautiful zone then for profiting areas. Look at that. Support, 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 support. That is a horizontal. There's a good zone. Char seal. Is that right? And duck egg. Oh, okay. I don't like duck egg. No. Won't be doing no duck egg anymore. But I know it's very popular. Out of a can too. Don't do it, Shane. Travels with Giggle says, I should have got into Bitcoin, but I'm too chicken. It's all right. There's always an opportunity somewhere else. Never forget that there's always another opportunity. Look at this article. I love these articles. Wall Street set for mixed open. Jobless claim steady. Mixed open. Mostly bullish open. All right. So S&P's testing up this high. Testing this 34.20 high up here. It's not out of the realms of possibility that we go to test a very early 11.6 high here. 11.580, 11.6 high on the Nasdaq. Be interesting to see if Apple just cracks that 20 completely or if it still stays relatively kind of around the same level. Remember, Amazon, Apple, a few others are all hitting this 20 to the other side. So it'll be interesting to see if they can hold it. Slack is back. Does that mean Slack is up? I would have hoped that Slack came back down a bit. Give us some buying opportunities. But if you're in it, obviously you're going to want that up. VIX, of course, dropping off. We want, if any kind of bears out there, we want VIX to hold above 27. We definitely don't want it underneath that. So Slack is bouncing. That's to be expected. Whenever you see this kind of drop off, though, did that actually happen? Did it actually go that low? That's not bad how low that got. But whenever you see that kind of percentage drop off, then you always do know that it usually cannot recover. And there's actually a bit of a rule of thumb. If you get like a stock that drops 20%, especially penny stocks, in one day, it takes a very long time to usually recover it. MC says, what's up, crew? Buying the discounts on the ASX tomorrow. Yes, MC, but we kind of need the S&P 500 to bust down a little bit here to get us the promised land of ASX buying. Richard says BTC 18,000 by Xmas. I definitely think 14,000 or 12,000, 14,000, 16,000, all very key levels. 14,000 very possible. Life's regrets. My old man's really kicking. He was looking at getting $2,000 worth of Bitcoin when it was 20 bucks. I mined 156 Bitcoins and sold them for about $1,000. Does that make me the worst trader ever? No, worst investor ever, yeah? I did make money. Technically, they were made from some electricity. But yeah, I dumped them off years ago to buy something. I can't remember what I was doing. Should have just left them there. Back then, though, I would have just probably lost them in MT Gox anyway. I probably would have put them in there and then MT Gox just stole them. Is Slack a dead cat bounce? So I think Slack is a dead cat bounce. Yeah, generally companies will recover the next day. They won't usually sell off and then they'll have still weakness. I like to watch after a bad result. Intel's a classic case. Let's have a quick look at Intel, learn from that. It's always good to learn from these kind of results and how things happen. So you have obviously the big flash. This time you had the sell-off after that point, but generally what will happen is you'll have the sell-off, have a bit of a pullback, and then you'll have a further sell-off, and then you'll have maybe a new low and then accumulation, kind of like what was happening over here. You'll have an accumulation, and what you want to do is some volume analysis of the accumulation, and then when it breaks out to the high, you generally buy that zone. So technically it broke out here. It was technically a decent little buy time on Intel. That was against the hype of the new announcement, and then it broke obviously down during the bad sentiment. But overall, this is the accumulation period for Intel. Let's hope Intel can turn it around though. Otherwise they are going the age of the dodo. They really need to work on so many things. We've talked about that a bit. Let's take a look at copper price here just quickly, see if that's really recovered hard into the open. We'll take a look at DXY, maybe look at that US dollar CAD, and of course we'll look at some other stocks. So copper was down quite a lot in the futures earlier, and then now it's fully retraced that. S&P, let's see what's happening here. S&P lagging a little bit to the Nasdaq. Basically a bit of a fizzer in terms of the open. Obviously the futures did hold here, but we're at that key point. I still remain at that key 20. Let's see what happens here. End of day is going to be the key for today. Last hour of trade is probably where I come back and have a look at it. I'll be sleeping, but I'm sure that's the time. What did the guy pay for the pizza? Shane says. Yeah, that's the common one. I don't know what it is in today's Bitcoin, but I think it was like some ridiculous tens of millions. Someone else might be able to help out in the chat how much the pizza was. So the story goes that the first order ever on Bitcoin was for a pizza, and someone accepted some crazy amount of Bitcoins that was worth basically some insane millions and millions and millions of dollars. MT Gox. Yeah, that's how I remember crypto. Someone here bought Intel at 47. Last hour of trading has been pretty hectic lately, says Travels from with Giggles. Absolutely. Yeah, last hour of trades where the big trades happen. The first hour of trades where we all get in. Where the retail crowd goes, woo! I'm excited. I'm hyped. That's why we often see a bit of bullish momentum, or we see the sentiment of whatever the futures usually continues through, and then it often rejects. So we've noticed the reason I'm going to continue streaming for a bit here is last time we were streaming about 12 o'clock my time, which right now it's 11:40, and we actually saw the market start to sell off at about 12 into the 12:30 bracket. So we'll have a look whether the first hour of trade, let's see what happens right now, and then let's see what happens in the next half an hour to 40 minutes. $80 million for the pizza, Logan says. That'd be cool. Not bad. Not bad. Let's have a quick look through some of the main crowd. We'll look at, of course, gold. We'll look at Tesla again, see what's happening there. I use these stocks because this is a lot of sentiment. We talk about it a bit. Nikola's getting a bit of a base. I mean, if you're a crazy Nikola bull, I mean, yes, you're getting a discount off the hype. You're pretty much getting the same as the hype price right now. So not bad. Let's load now a few other stocks. I want to load up. Oh, where am I typing? Keep the questions coming through. I'll answer as many as I can. If I miss yours, I'm sorry, but I do try to answer them. Also, if you're not a subscriber already, we make videos on this channel all the time. Try to share as much information. Obviously, the trading community is awesome, and we'll be doing a massive election day stream focusing on markets, not politics, but markets. So if you're interested in that, we'll be doing a big one that day. So Nvidia gapped up, obviously up a little bit weaker, but it did have a nice day yesterday. So this stock here, still very strong. I just got it naked here on the charts. A few people say, what do you do when you first come into the markets and you're looking at something? Well, the first thing I do is I look at the monthly. I do this because I want to take a look at the company. I want to see what's been happening recently and just gauge whether I'm interested in this particular stock or not. Then I'll go down to the weekly. Then I'll have a look at what's been happening there. We can obviously see that what's been going on in terms of blow off here. Then I'll go to the daily, take a look at it, go to the 4 hour, so on and so forth. Then I'll bring on my indicators. So I'll usually bring my indicators on around the daily. And if I see moving averages touches, I go back to the weekly, etc. So as we've said on the markets, let's just do some analysis there on the monthly down. Oh, actually, we need there we go. We need that kind of time frame. So we're still very, very far away from the 20 monthly, but that doesn't mean that much. I wouldn't use the monthly moving averages as something that I would pay that much attention to. Just don't think it's that important. So not something that we want to do. We go down to the weekly. Weekly 20, I think, is always an important factor. Here, if we close the week up here, what does this look like? I mean, this looks like basically a pin bar hammer long. Now, if you weren't in the market and you're like, oh, I've got to get in this dip, the way you do it is you say, okay, we put just a little bit above the hammer for the next week. And we do that because we want to see continued bullish momentum. Otherwise, what will happen often is these have been traps both ways. Notice here, we have a bearish shooting star pin bar. We've got a bearish shooting star pin bar, got a bearish shooting star pin bar. How did they all turn out? Terrible. Now, this one here was the Fed that ruined it. This one here was just a pure technical play. Notice it doesn't really make a proper new low, but this is the Fed. You have to ignore that. The Fed completely destroyed the short here. And then this one here didn't make a new low, even though it looked bearish. So on the bullish side, it's the same process, the same approach. Nasdaq 11.6, yeah, it's definitely possible. I think that's where we're going towards. Previous support, previous resistance. Let's see what happens there. We'll go up to the bigger time frames on the Nasdaq as well. So we're only on the weekly right now. We didn't touch the weekly 20, but we did get down to the 3,350 buy zone on the daily. That's certainly the first buy. The second buy was that 3,200, 3,222. So these are both fairly decent dip buys. Price action obviously into the 20 right now, just like we're seeing on Apple, Amazon's all the same. Previous support was the 20. Then it becomes the resistance. Same process as role reversal. Look at the Nasdaq. Right where it is coming up to right now, we're hitting the 20. How important was this 20 to the Nasdaq? I would argue it was the most important moving average through this entire run. So many touches to this. So many crazy buy dip opportunities or buy corrective opportunities. So it means that it should really act as resistance. If it gets through here, that's crazy bullish sentiment. That's crazy bullish sentiment. But it should find resistance here. Tesla looks like a bull trap right now from Stupid Baddie. Not sure. Could be. Tom, you can have a look at this other channel for a very good established live trading chat. Yeah, we'll check that out. I think I've seen that one before. Hi, it's Antonio from Portugal. The one with the fact. Don't worry, Antonio. I said your fact before. That fact was 3rd of September 1929 was the high point of the market. Obviously, if you don't know, 1929 was kind of a very similar scenario. It led to, obviously, a incredible pullback in the market and recession. So it went down, then up, made a new high, then went down. And 3rd of September was where it all began in terms of the second downpour. And that was something we do not want. I don't mind dips and corrective phases. I don't want to crash. It's bad for my business. I don't want that. In 400 years, Tesla's PE will be worth it. Yeah, Tesla has some high PE. Absolutely. The market's still hovering around here. Just that was a little bit of top-down analysis, but I guess you can get the approach. You don't want to have too many indicators on. Bring the indicators onto your charts later. Bring on pivots as well later. Bring on other reasons. Find your reason in the price action first. Once you've got your reason, try to add to that with synergies. And ideally, you have 3 to 6 reasons to be in a trade. 3 to 6 reasons always. That's the best way of looking at things. Let's go down to those smaller time frames now. We'll go down to the 1 hour on both the S&P and the Nasdaq. We'll also maybe take a look at the Dow as well. Zoom those ones in a little bit. So a bit fizzy. We're going into 11:47. So first 15 minutes are now over. This is on the right-hand side of 15 minute. Obviously, we've made the high, kind of done a long leg doji here in terms of the candle. And we're hitting the resistance still on the S&P. Keep the questions coming in. We'll answer as many as we can. Laka says, after digging into Tesla, I realized that they actually are the company of the future. There is a reason why ARK, which is a particular fund that's quite popular right now, holds them and is #1 position. Battery, AI, auto driving for sure. Software, cars, and many more. They've got some superior proprietary stuff. Obviously, though, I still think they're going to come into... At the end of the day, they have to prove it with money. And people love Elon. Do you use VWAP, says Mark. Yeah, we use VWAP. It's obviously good if you're going to use it on the smaller time frames and you're doing a bit of trading. We'll definitely do a VWAP day. We'll go into the smaller time frames and talk about. Antonio shared his fact there, so if you want to have a look. Andrew does not agree with me on Tesla, obviously. He says, Kyle, you will be a multi-millionaire if you hold. Follow the channels I recommend. I am a retired teacher and Tesla investor. Looking after you like my own. You really shouldn't be on this channel. I appreciate your opinion, Andre. But I will say that it's always, it's all right. Everyone can have their opinion. There's no point in saying you can't. I mean, look, we all have different ways of getting to the same area. I learned a long time ago it's not really worthwhile, being a hater. There's a lot of people that were like making fun of a lot of long-term investors during the crypto kind of run back in 2018. You've got to do what you believe in. That's the most important thing. You sleep well at night and you're happy with what you're doing. That's the main thing. Yeah, we definitely talk a lot about trading, Andre. Obviously, I invest as well. So investing is different to trading. And trading you're making more knee-jerk reactions. And of course, investing, you are making basically buy solid companies and buy them for a longer period. And you're trying to buy, of course, great prices. Yeah, we did some BTC analysis. We will load it up though because there's great structure there. So we're talking about how this SUP here of the 10K is so good. Obviously, you go out to the daily, you'll see it straight away. Very great resistance becoming support. We've got a huge amount of wick rejections off this zone as well on the daily channel, which is great. You've got body closes all above the 10. It's very important that you have that, because what it shows is every time it tries to get under, it's got a lot of buying pressure behind. It's kind of like almost accumulating at this level. There's a lot of people buying around here. It's obviously getting the whales back in potentially there as well. We go down to the smaller time frames, and we have here a pretty nice structure of accumulation. This is the type of thing that you want to see after a decent sell-off, and then you want to see it crack a new high. So you want to see it past the 10.6, ideally get past the 10.6 through the 50 EMA, and then bounce back down. And then at this point, you're basically seeing the structure has formed, it's broken through, it's given you the breakout, and it will usually come down and at least tap this area, and then back onto the 11.2 before the 11.2. Previous supports all the way across here, very, very tight, very good. Why is the ASX lagging out the indices? We've got our own problems here in Australia. We also earn a huge amount of our GDP off China, and obviously we are not in the best relationships with China right now. There is other issues. We're in lockdown as well. That doesn't help. That does not help. Let's have a look at the markets. We're seeing a bit of a pullback here now, kind of expected, I guess, after the initial rise. We're at 11:51 my time, so pretty much happening as it always has happened the last couple of days. We saw the same thing on Tuesday. What should I start with to learn technical analysis? A book. I don't think books are really going to help you too much on TA. I mean, obviously, we do run our own course. We have our own private Discord community as well. If you're interested in joining those, you can jump over to fxevolution.com and you can find out a little bit more. But in general, look, you're going to want to... There are good free resources out there as well. I think the difference between free and learning from someone that's done it for a while is that there's market nuances to everything. You can learn about a channel pattern or anything like that, but trading it and learning the textbook account is very different. Where you're going to put your stop losses, you know, the textbook's not going to work out for you that much. Daily chart at Nasdaq forming head and shoulders pattern with major support at 10K. Okay, let's have a look. So basically, all right. So I like your chess there, J-Ram. But one thing I'll say is whenever you're looking, so we'll get rid of these lines. Let's get rid of this confusion. So basically, you can call things before they happen, but obviously you need to see the actual structure. Now, one of the key things as being a technical analyst or anything in the markets is trying to spot things before they happen and then wait for, like, you know, kind of alert them, set them, and get ready. So if you're having a head and shoulders here, you've really only got your head and you don't really have a great right shoulder. Now, what you could have is the market could come back to this point if it sells off aggressively, and then it could create a right shoulder and then move down. Now, obviously, that would be a very strong signal because you've got good structure over here. The left shoulder should be good structure. If it's not, then it's not going to be enough. What I like to do is, it's good to play chess, it's good to look at structure, it's good to do those kind of things. But I don't think I'd be calling this a head and shoulders just yet. There's certainly very decent support, though, around this zone, which we talked about, the 11,000. Is there something like sentiment trading? How would you do that? Making money on the observation that, as you mentioned, there is a surge in the morning hours from retail and running out. Yeah, look, there's definitely facts and stats on those kind of things. I don't think, again, they're as easy as that. If they were, someone much smarter than you or myself would probably robot them up. In my opinion, the thing with sentiment is understanding the particular thing you're trading. Nikola trades incredibly hard. Tesla trades incredibly hard. When it breaks out, it goes wild. When the sentiment turns off, it bears down very aggressively, and then you need that kind of catalyst to bullishly pick it back up again. These particular two stocks are incredible trades. They're also good investments. You know, Tesla, as we said, it's been a good investment. Tom, can you comment on ABC correction as part of the Elliott Wave cycle? Possum, I'm not really going to go too much into Elliott Wave. It's not something that I guess I'm a huge fan of because of the subjectivity of it. Maybe we'll do a stream on it a little bit. But yes, I will say that I'm not a huge fan of Elliott Wave. And that's purely because I like things that I can use short, hard, fast price action. And when we're talking about waves and things, they give you a lot of confidence, which is awesome. And waves long can be very good in the stock market to give you the confidence. But I find them incredibly difficult to trade off. Gold, 1972. Yeah, that was wild. Anyone that hasn't seen it, go check that out. Bitcoin's recent sell-off was off a head and shoulders, Ron says. Yes, it was. Little one. By the way, thank you very much for the two donos tonight. I'll definitely be buying a couple of coffees tomorrow. Appreciate that. Appreciate the support. Always be trying to improve this channel and make it better for everybody. Andre says, I didn't see Tesla. No, I definitely saw Tesla, Andre. I just, look, I've got it, man. We all have it, technically. I've got it in funds. I just don't personally, individually hold it. So yeah, I've got it in funds, of course. You end up getting it because of those things. So you're getting exposure regardless. You just pick different areas. And also remember that, you know, just because you get a move of 200 or 300 or 500%, look at Netflix. What if you own Netflix? Hey, very good returns as well. Let's actually have a look at Netflix. We haven't done the chart on the channel for a while. I'd argue Netflix has been pretty damn sweet. Look at the monthly there. Not bad. Nothing wrong with getting Netflix instead. So the thing is with these particular companies is, again, Netflix is wild right now. But imagine if you got that 400 buy. Oh, look at the structure through this. Look at these aggressive moves each way the last couple of years. And you won't, of course, but on the monthly you do see that. Netflix here coming down a little bit. Again, though, if it ever did get down to these zones, very, very strong moves. And it can do it. You can see when it blows off, when it moves down. Effectively, Netflix already blew off. It's gone back. Let's have a look at the fib on that, actually. Let's check that fib out. And we know when markets kind of go down this much, and I've got a magnetic bloody fib here. Let's pull this up. That they often come back to the 61.8, 78.6. It came back to the 78.6, sold off. It's pretty much officially in blow off now. I'd expect Netflix to have a little bit of a point now where it consolidates for a while. Might even make a new low, regardless of what the market does, because it does have headwinds. But yeah, look, the company's great, has great shows. I think they just picked up that Cobra Kai. Isn't that hitting the US by storm? It's in Australia now. Elon sold, so we have a top, says Logan. RevMatch says, I don't think Elliott Wave matters too much if the markets are manipulated. Yeah, I mean, it's a slower approach, isn't it, Rev? So, yeah. All right, let's have a look back at the markets. See what's going on there. So we've got here time 11:59. This is usually where we saw that little bit pulled back a little bit here, back into the previous kind of resistances. It's becoming a little bit of support. Again, it's not really my kind of favorite thing to do, trading off those 15-minute charts, but I would have preferred it came down to 20 and then bounced off that. We are seeing that little bit of weakness in the S&P right now. Let's have a look at the heat screen as well. Siddharth says Cobra Kai is the best. You know, that was originally on, was it YouTube, I think? YouTube subscription, and then just didn't do that well. Let's refresh today's performance, see what's been happening. Utilities still copying it a bit. Banks up decently, which is nice to see. Wells Fargo up the best. There you go. Oh, I just couldn't buy that. Disney continuing its move up. Obviously, people would also like the fact they have that Mandalorian new season in the bag. I think it's very positive for Disney Plus. Nikhil says, "Hi bro, I want to start investing slowly. Is this a good time to start?" It's always a good time to educate yourself in the markets and see what you want to do. But look, again, I can't give you personal advice on that type of stuff. My biggest problem with Tesla, I guess, just to end this kind of thing so we don't have to talk about it too much more in the room. I don't really want everyone getting into a bit of a fight about it. Is, look, I just think it's got a lot of key person risk. And that's something, it's like the aeroplane thing I was telling you about the other day. Like, I don't like aeroplane companies because they can technically crash. If they crash, you get busted on stock. Oh, it's terrible. Malaysia Air, that was bad. But, Elon Musk, like Tesla has a lot of worth in him. It's kind of like Berkshire in some ways, though a lot of people expect, of course, Buffett to be replaced over time. If something happened to Elon, oh my goodness. I find that incredibly dangerous in terms of that aspect as well. It's just that it added extra bit. But yeah, look, there's nothing wrong with Tesla. You make a lot of money in it. It's done very well. It's all good. It's a great trade stock too. Watson channel, what's your opinion on, whoa, that stock? Okay, we'll have a look at that. Matt says, have you heard about Fed now? No, but you can tell me what it is if you'd like. No worries, Christina. DXY back into the downward channel. Yeah, let's take a look at DXY again together here. Have a look at what's going on there. So DXY is back into the channel at the stage. We've still got that high up here. Obviously the low down at the 92s was bought up aggressively. We want to see, probably for DXY bulls, we want to see a pull up today and to get above this 20 again. We do not want really the DXY to be underneath the 20 moving average. All right, well, it looks like we've got basically a bunch of bullish movement coming through now. Again, in the Nasdaq. Look at the CAD quickly just to finish up here. And I don't think we're going to necessarily see too much action until we hit the 11.6. Got the 12 o'clock time frame for me, so it's probably time to almost call it quits. Thank you very much for everybody to come out and obviously come to the live event. Really appreciating the support. Again, why is the DXY so important? Would it be the implication to breaking out gold, FX equities? Look, the DXY is important because if we see a huge amount of devaluation in the US, that's never really a great thing for the major currency. But on top of that, we also have a huge amount of implications for people investing from overseas into the stocks, all sorts of things. Yeah, Shane, probably better drop it. And Andre, I don't really appreciate those comments either, mate. All right, well, let's look at that US dollar CAD. Just quickly talk about it. We'll do that right now. Vaccine before winter or Fed keep printing money? I think overall the Fed will continue to support the markets. They obviously have said they will. They're not prepared to let it go down this time. You don't start something and don't finish it, hey? You got to finish it. So US dollar CAD is right back at where you'd expect. It's actually pretty good technical here. You'd expect this to find bullish support here. Notice we've got the previous support, resistance, and then of course we've got the support again. And then we have the 131 kind of 70 zone, we get higher than that, then all of a sudden we could be retesting this 132.40. This is a super cool zone if we get that break above here. Why is that? It shows that we've got rejections off here. If we reject this point, we get above. I like the structure through here. Support, 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 resistance becomes support. We get the action up here. We've effectively got the lightning bolt where we've got the point that comes down, comes back up, and on the smaller time frames, it will have already dipped and then it will break a new high. Yeah, I quite like it. Same thing as you can see in stocks as well. Yeah, Andre, look, we all know that those kind of things don't make, that you can have a lot of companies that don't make money for a long time. Amazon obviously had that vision as well. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for coming out. It's been an awesome event. Heaps of support here, which is great. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. We do streams generally 1 or 2 times a week, possibly more if there's a lot of action. In any of those weeks where we see huge volatility in the markets, I'll probably be doing way more. And we're doing a US election stream, special one. We always create content, and we'll have to see what comes into the close of today. If you're interested in what really the market sentiment is, the last hour of trade is going to be the key, because we've been seeing that that's been when the sell-off comes. So definitely check that out. And keep looking at technical analysis, keep improving, and obviously keep trying to find out as much knowledge as possible. Because remember, of course, knowledge is empowering, but you have to be able to put it into work. Try to keep things simple as well. Use the KISS principle. You know, I worked at Apple and they knocked that into you, the KISS principle. And basically it's keep it simple, stupid. And the idea in trading is the same thing. Keep everything as simple as possible, and it has to make some sense. If something doesn't make sense to you, it's probably not worth doing. Stay safe, everybody. Good luck.